Welcome to my channel, Life of J&A. So I'm a fairly new YouTuber, and so Love During Lockup is one of the shows I've been watching since the beginning of time. So I decided to review this season, even though we're in the middle of it. And so here we go. This is season 5, episode 54, and it's called Ditch the Chicks. So we start out with Kate and Hunter. Now, last episode, we left off with Kate telling Hunter that she no longer wanted him to use the app, the Writer Prisoner app. Now, mind you, this is the same app that she signed him up for. So, I low-key think Kate thought that she would sign him up for this app, have other women finance him, and then when he get out, have him just cut the women off. But you open that box, and so, looks like you about to get closed with it. But anyway, so Hunter comes clean and lets Kate know that he wasn't honest and that he actually is still talking to 2 of the women from the app. So he didn't actually cut all the women off like he was supposed to. She feeling some type of way because he was being dishonest with her and saying that he needs to cut all the women off in order for them to move forward in their relationship. He also reminds her that she was like the brains of this operation. She signed him up for it. So I'm going to go couple by couple because they seem to bounce around during the episode. And so later in the episode, she's actually riding horses and you can tell that she feels down about it. So he calls her, he reassures her, he apologizes for not telling the truth. She puts her foot down and say, everybody needs to be cut off or I'm done, right? And so he promises to cut everybody off and he reassures her that she is the only one for him and that all the other girls, they don't mean nothing, and that she starts to feel better. You can see she gets on the horse. She seems all happy. Mind you, 10 miles away, which these girls they're in the same city. So he calls Kaylee. Now, Kaylee, when she answers the phone, she has a surprise for him. She went wedding dress shopping. Not only did she go wedding dress shopping, she found their ring. And so I believe the pawn lady or whoever she purchased it from, she said the ring was like $100. So Kaylee goes off talking about, I don't care what the haters say. I bought my own ring. You know, she loved her man. So this is a confusion because it's like, who's the main girl? When I first was watching this season, it was obvious that it was Kate. And that Kaylee was someone I thought that maybe he was just using for financing. But when you look at the energy when he's talking to Kaylee, he's a lot happier when he's talking to Kaylee. He even made a comment like, Kaylee's my twin flame, and I haven't had that in a long time. When he's talking to Kate, he's more so just mansplaining, just trying to reassure her she's the one. But with Kaylee, he makes a comment like, I'm looking forward to marrying her and actually life ahead with her. So we gonna see, it's getting messy. But he also mentions that he's excited to marry Kaylee. So it's like, who's the main girl? Who we gonna see? And he says it's gonna be hard for him to figure out which one he needs to pick. But it sounds like Kaylee is coming for the #1 slot. Also, he has bad news with Kaylee because he says that he may have to stay an additional 30 to 60 days. They say they love each other. Kaylee, she then goes and explains that they don't have any video privileges. They don't even have any visitation in-person privileges. She says their first call, so their calls were X-rated, right? She showed them the girls, and then the second call, they went even farther. And so their privileges got pulled. And so she just wants him to come home. She breaks from production, and then she goes in the bathroom and start crying. And that was pretty much their segment for the week. So the next couple that we have is Sam and Crystal and Rita, because Rita is a part of this throuple. She's a part of this couple for sure. So Sam, he's hungover. I don't know if he went out, he partied or whatever, and he has a friend there with him. Now, he says he visits Crystal about twice a month. Now, mind you, Crystal is 3 hours away each way for him to see. So he gets a call from Crystal. Rita hasn't been heard from. Nobody can get a hold of Rita, the grandmother. Rita's not answering the phone, and Crystal wants Sam to stop by and check on Rita before she comes to see her so she can feel better, that her grandmother is okay. Crystal explains how her and her grandmother are close. I think Crystal lost her mother, Rita's daughter, and so it's just them, and they kind of are like codependent on one another. And so Sam, he was feeling like, I don't know if it was a time crunch. He wasn't going to have time to check and deal with Rita and her shenanigans. And is it me or did it feel like Rita, every time it's time to visit Crystal, Rita, she throw a wrench in the plan? So it's definitely giving Rita feel, I don't know. It's a weird triangle. But anyway, Rita's not answering the phone. Sam's friend mentions how he seems to be the only one sacrificing anything in this relationship. I mean, and that's what we as the viewers see. We only see him making all the sacrifices. And so it seems to be getting old and working on Sam's nerves a little bit. And so, yeah, so no one's heard from Rita. And Crystal, she really wants him to go check on her. And really, and it's jeopardizing him having the time to visit her. And they only get to see each other twice a month. So later in the episode, we see Sam pulling up to Rita's house. Rita's not answering the phone, and she's not answering the door. And he explains how it's a 3-hour drive each way, and I guess he just doesn't have much time to be fooling with Rita and her shenanigans. Crystal mentions that she'll be released in 7 years. She's hoping with good behavior that is sooner. Rita calls finally and says that she doesn't feel well. And so Sam is annoyed because you could have said that hours ago. You could have just answered your phone and said, you know, I'm not feeling good. And I could have went on about my business and already been there, right? And then so Crystal starts talking about her uncertainty. And I'm like, you the one in prison, but you got uncertainty? Okay. She starts talking about how the last time she was supposed to have a lawyer, Sam was lying and it turned out that she didn't have one. So this time I think she actually does have a lawyer. On the flip side, Sam is talking about all the money and time and resources that this relationship is causing him. And she even makes a comment and says how Sam has dedicated his whole life to her, which I thought was like, yikes. But anyway, and that it's hard for her to trust someone from on the inside, when in reality, you should just be happy to have somebody to help you. But that was pretty much their segment for the week. He never actually got to the jail. It was dealing with Rita and her shenanigans trying to get there. So the next couple that we have is MJ and Willie. MJ is, let me see, she's Tongan from Tonga. She explained that she grew up in a strict culture in Utah and says that she's the black sheep of her family. Her dad had 36 kids. At the time when she met Willie, she was married and I think Willie was married. So she was married for 13 years. Willie was married for 9 years and I think he had like 3 boys. She got divorced and then she moved out to San Francisco, where she doesn't really have much family or anyone out there. And so she was going through a hard time, a vulnerable time in her divorce. And like a year and some change later, Willie called her. I think he was already locked up. Some kind of way he got her information, her number. He called her and they just locked in and she's been with him ever since. And so after she's working out with her cousin, and her cousin just keep throwing her these questions about the ex-husband. And so the cousin asks her if she keeps in touch with the ex-husband. And so the cousin also makes a comment that she doesn't feel MJ is being honest with her. So right away, you see it coming. It's like, okay, so she still got some dealings with the ex-husband then. The cousin just kept looking at her like, girl, you playing in front of these cameras. But anyway, her cousin asks if she has slept with anyone recently because Willie's locked up. And she says no. And the cousin's like, I don't think you're being honest. So later in the episode, we see MJ, it's her birthday. They go out to celebrate drinks. They're trying to get her to take some shots. She's like, no. She explains that she's been drinking since she was 13. She quit drinking after her DUI. She said she was going 120 and a 45. Now, it sounds like to me they should have took her license. But she said she was on probation for 2 years and she's been sober for a year since then. She's got a trip coming up to visit her mom back in Utah, where her ex-husband is. So her ex-husband is back in Utah. Now I was like, okay, here we go. Now we're getting to the story. So the last time she went back home to her family and visited, she actually ended up sleeping with her ex-husband. And so Willie found out, she started recording their calls, and she recorded their conversation. She was like, Willie was so upset. He was tripping, but he wasn't like upset. He was just saying something like, you could put the baddest in front of me and I wouldn't do anything and blah, blah, blah. But she says that he's over it. But then she leaves off the segment saying that it's been a year since she's had sex. So I'm like, already it's a setup for something to happen. That was pretty much MJ and Willie's segment. I feel like they're a new couple because I don't remember seeing them. So then we have Savannah and Bradley. You know, Savannah, the $20,000 BBL lady. So right away, we're still talking about this butt. She has a fake butt that she's showing Bradley, that she's still trying to push this $20,000 surgery on him. And so it sounds like someone in production asked him, what's the chances of 1 to 10 of you paying for this surgery? He said like a 3. But we already know you only wanted the payments to be $200 a month. And for $20,000 with care credit or whatever they use, I don't think it's going to be $200 a month. I think it's going to be a little higher than that. But then on the flip side, she says that she don't want no expensive wedding. They can go to the courthouse So he's like, you willing to spend all this money on a BBL, but you want a cheap wedding? Make it make sense. And so actually Bradley mentions he don't even like to talk about weddings because they're not even engaged yet. And she's already talking about weddings. And she makes a comment about them being on the same page, but it's like y'all couldn't be farther apart because y'all not even engaged yet. So that's a fool, honestly. The whole conversation comes up about them. Bradley has a sister named Alyssa who is going to be visiting. Now, Savannah and Alyssa, they have their own friendship outside of her relationship with Bradley. So they have a good friendship with each other. But apparently 6 months ago, Savannah said she's tried to put boundaries, but apparently 6 months ago, Alyssa put her hands on Savannah. So it sounded like Savannah got beat up, basically. And so now she's trying to put boundaries in between her and Alyssa, his sister. Bradley makes a comment that when he gets out, if Alyssa is there, he'll leave. So I don't know what internal thing they got going on in their family. Later in the episode, we finally meet Alyssa. They're furniture shopping. And I'm like, well, who's the furniture for? Because y'all, she said when Bradley gets out, he's going to stay with his father. You still live in your grandmother's house, so who's getting the furniture? Okay. So she meets up with Alyssa, and she's got news that Bradley's going to be home in 18 days. She's excited, planning for him to stay at his dad's house when he gets out. She tells Alyssa that she loves her, but she's trying to create boundaries with their friendship for her mental health, over the last 6 months. And already Alyssa is looking like, girl, why are you bringing this up on camera? Like, I don't know if she planned to have this conversation with Alyssa or no one ever let Alyssa in that they were going to bring it up. And so she's like, what are you talking about? And she goes 0 to 100. She starts saying how that apparently Savannah asked Bradley if he loves his grandmother more than her. Now, if that's true, that is weird as hell. But, like, that's a weird question. Who would ask that? That's like me asking my husband, you love your grandmother more than me? What? That's strange. Really. And so, Alyssa, she calls herself just dumping. She's like, well, he only using you to finance him while he's in jail. My sister said you're not invited to any of the events. My parents can't stand you. She's going in. Like mad day. It's like, where did all this come from? Like, you must have been thinking, having these thoughts. So it's like, are y'all real friends? Because they went 0 to 100 real fast. And so Savannah starts walking to the car, and she says she wouldn't ask him to choose between his family and her. But the thing is, Bradley did say on the call that if his sister is there, that he would leave. So there's obviously some tension. It don't seem like Savannah is the wedge in between the family, but it does seem like there are some issues there between Bradley and his own family. Or maybe it's just his sister. He knew his sister for her works. Maybe it's just that. So that was pretty much their segment. She's walking to the car, and Bradley's sister was still going off. And so those were the 4 couples for the week. Next week, it do look like we're going to make more headway with the Kate and Kaylee situation. Look like it's about to get real messy. So thank you for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.